Respected Director of the conference, Dr. M.G. Srikumar, Plenary Chair, Dr. Santanu Ganguly, and the office bearers of LIS Academy. I am Hamsa Kalyani, librarian at the National Institute of Advanced Studies, Bangalore. I will be presenting my paper on institutional assets of social science institutes in India. So in this presentation, I will be focusing on the following: social science research in India and resources of social science. Then I've tried to identify some of the institutional assets of social science institutes, some selected institutes, and finally the role of librarians in social science research. Now, research is conducted in universities and research institutions. Research institutions could be funded by the government. It could be autonomous institutes, which could be funded by the government, as well as they may get funding from elsewhere. So there are autonomous institutes, and there are non-governmental organizations, and there are groups which work on policy and advocacy, and these groups also contribute to SSR. So coming to what are the key concerns in social science research in India, social sciences is about understanding the functioning of society. And this is a very complex phenomenon because you're trying to understand the society in its diverse social, economic, and political dimensions. Researchers also play, in addition to doing their research, they also try to fulfill the needs of policymakers, administrators, government officials with data and research, and also the public and civil society groups with data and research, which will help the policymakers to make informed decisions. So these are the roles that social scientists play. So when you to compare science and social science in numbers, because we say that social science is not funded, the size of social scientists is very small compared to the scientists. So although there are a number of institutions, there are more than 350 institutions, research institutions, I'm not talking about universities, which actually do research in social science, but the numbers are still small. The researcher numbers are still small compared to the large pool of scientists in, you take institutions like DRDO, CSIR, Department of Space, and so on. When the numbers are small, automatically the funding also becomes much smaller. And what is the essential infrastructure required for social science research? So one is obviously the society itself. Without society, there's no social science research. The research has to be supported by libraries, archives, documentation centers, information centers. So libraries are extremely important. So society is like a laboratory, and these are, in addition to that, you need libraries for social science research. Now, coming to what is generated as research is done, a lot of resources are generated by social science researchers. One is the formal publication, which is the same like any other discipline. They bring out journal articles and books and so on. But in addition, they also bring out a number of informal publications, which, traditionally, it is the tradition in social science research to bring out these reports, working papers, occasional papers, monographs, policy briefs, consultancy reports, and so on. So as they move from one project to another, it always ends in a report or in a working paper, which may not necessarily result in a formal publication. But these are extremely important. They add to the knowledge base of social science, and because of their research value and data that they carry. So this is important part, asset of social science research. And also coming to media reports, they write in the media because researchers continuously engage with issues that are happening, social, economic, political issues, and they are reacting to it. They are giving their perspectives, so they are writing in the media. This is also an important resource. And then they also write in regional languages because the society is so diverse and multilingual. They need to write in different languages, and resources from the field. So their field work will also gather a lot of background material. It could be from the government departments of, from civil society groups. It could be all kinds of resource that they actually gather. And then their own research will be done with the interviews, surveys, and so on. So here they generate both qualitative and quantitative data. Now, with advancement in technology, they also do a lot of recording of it could be anything. It could be community engagements, it could be photographs, it could be a ritual practice. So they do a lot of recording of events and so on, which they need for their research. So this is also a part of the resource. And sometimes performances are used to express social issues. So you see the vastness of material that is required that gets generated during a research project in social sciences. And coming to what is needed, I mean, what is needed and what is generated are more or less the same. But what is needed is, for instance, when you talk about data resources, government data actually becomes the backbone for social science research. Government data, it could be census, NSS, and data from various ministries. So there is a lot of data from the government, state government, and even at the local level, which is used by them. And more recently, the significant development is the ICCR data repository, which is a national repository to actually, it's a platform for sharing social science data. Now, coming to the other types of materials that are coming into research is they use Google Earth, and they use Bhuvan, OpenStreetMaps, and all these geospatial resources as well. And regional language materials, they use of much of the official documents are in regional languages, so they need that. And then translations is extremely important for social science research, because not everybody knows the language in which they are working in. So translation is, we have to emphasize the importance of translation here. And visual materials of social and cultural history, I've already spoken about it, and archival materials. So they consult government, private, and corporate archives. They could, state archives, national archives. So they may make use of all of these. So these are resources generated and what is needed. Now, coming to, I just to understand what is being done, I looked at some of the institutes supported by the ICSSR. ICSSR was set up 50 years ago almost, and it supports 29 institutions. And it has a very good documentation center, which we have used at one point or the other. Now, what are the resources in 29 institutes? So all the 29 institutes supported by ICCR bring out in-house publications. So that is a lot of archival material there. And they bring out about 20 journals. 11 institutions bring out 20 journals, out of which 3 are in Hindi and 1 in Marathi. 3 institutions have developed institutional repositories, and there are 3 institutes which have data banks and research projects. So this is actually, it's required that all institutions put up their research projects there, so that you know what is going on. So that adds to the knowledge base. So there are 17 institutions which are ongoing and completed research projects, and 15 of them offer PhD program. And about 3 institutions have some audiovisual materials, and there are 2 institutions which have digitization projects. And see, there could be much more, but what was visible from the website is what I have put in here. And many of them also have prize publications. They sell their monographs, their working papers, and so on. And 3 institutions have actually used Open Docs of Institute Development Studies in London to put up some of their in-house publications. Now, what are the different types of in-house publications? I've gone through this earlier. So 13 institutions actually bring out monographs, and 20 institutions bring out working papers. So there are a whole lot of, there's a treasure there with a lot of monographs, working papers, research reports, and so on, policy documents. Annual reports is important part of so required for social science research, and policy briefs, occasional papers, and so on. Now, the two institutes which I found for digitization project, one was the Center for Studies in Social Sciences, is really doing a remarkable work. They have ongoing projects from the Endangered Archives Program of British Library. So they have many digitization projects under this. They have sort of digitized the Amrit Basar Patrika and some of the older journals and books. They've gone on to public libraries and private collections, and they've digitized a lot of colonial material of Bengal and the eastern region of India. And I think that it's both a collection of textual and visual material, and it is also available. There are two avenues for their digitization project. One is the Cross Asia Digital Repository, which is from Germany. So they have more than 2,400 records there. And Institute of Social and Economic Change also has done a lot of digitization work. It has included rare documents in social sciences with archival value in their repository. So I could find these two. Then what is the role of libraries? Now, creating the knowledge base of social sciences with resources generated, resources needed, and database of projects. So this would be the librarians could do. I mean, it's easier said than done because we saw the variety of resources that are used. But, we have to make a beginning and expand the library collection to include regional language materials, which the CSSS has done. It has a lot of, it has a language, vernacular collection of historical value. Every library, I think, should start collecting materials in vernacular, at least in the regions that the researchers are studying. Those regions could be covered to start with, and also assist in creating a community of users around their institutional portals. That's identify your target audience and try to engage with them. So that's one of the ways to help the researchers. The impact of social science is on across the society. It has an impact on the public, it has an impact on the government, it has an impact on policymakers, NGOs, academics, and students. Now, our own repository has, you will see that it has all the in-house publications and all formal and informal publications, doctoral theses, and so on. So I end with three examples of engaging with the public, which our institute has done. One is the Speculative Urbanism Project, Speculative Urbanism in Bengaluru and Jakarta. This was a collaborative project of NIAS and University of Minnesota to study the impact of real estate projects on land, livelihoods, and finance in Bangalore. So the researchers curated a collection of audio, video, poetic, and photographic exhibits, which captured the expansion of real estate in Bangalore. So this is one way of engaging with the public, and it says stop and share your stories to the public and also view our photographs. So this was organized in various parts of the city. Then Performing the Periphery is another project of NIAS, which studied the impact of growing cities on environment and communities at the urban periphery. So a number of performing arts and festivals which play a significant role in the creation of urban imageries. Then finally, the last one, research in vernacular. I've used this example earlier many times, which is a very good example of engaging with the public. In the newspaper, this was curated by Professor Sarukai and Gopal Guru in Prajavani for 6 months. So specialists wrote on sub-themes of caste, such as caste and religion, caste and food, caste and art, and caste and education, and so on. So the public responded to these issues or responded to this debate by narrating their own experiences. There was very good response, and each of these responses were actually published again as letters in the newspaper. So it became a repository on caste in Kannada. So this is how you build the knowledge base in vernacular. So I end with this. Thank you.